And are all those self-help books actually hurting us? We'll talk to Mark Hansen, co-founder of Chicken Soup for the Soul books, when 360 continues. And who's helping whom? Self-help gurus getting rich, some say, off a nation that craves self-help books. Does it really work? We're going to talk to Mark Hansen, co-founder of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And we're also coming up next on 360. Is the purpose-driven life really chicken soup for your soul, or is it no soup for you? A debate on the business of self-help. We'll talk to Mark Hansen, co-founder of Chicken Soup for the Soul books. Well, joining us now in Philadelphia is Steve Salerno, a critic who you saw in the piece of the self-help industry and the author of Sham, How the Self-Help Movement Made America Helpless. And with me here in Los Angeles, Mark Victor Hansen, co-author of the best-selling series Chicken Soup, the whole series, Chicken Soup for the Soul books. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
I'm honored to be here.
Thanks, Steve, let me start off with you, Steve. You say the self-help industry can actually hurt people, but Americans, can't get enough of Chicken Soup for the Soul or Dr. Phil. Where's the harm?
Well, I think the harm is, first of all, making people feel better about a problem is not the same as fixing the problem. And I think that actually you can do damage by giving people the coping skills that keep them in a situation that actually needs to be addressed in some sort of a professional way. The Chicken Soup books, you hate to pile on there because that's one of the more benign manifestations, but that is symbolic of this effort to keep people locked into self-help as an addiction in its own right, because what happens is, since you're not fixing the problem, they have to come back to you again 6 months, 12 months later. And in fact, demographic studies show that the same people are buying the same books on the same topics at 12 to 18-month intervals. So whatever it was that brought them to that didn't get fixed.
Well, Mark Hansen, Steve is basically saying that because people keep coming back to them, that's a sign that they're kind of hooked on them and it's not really helping them.
Well, I've never met Steve, but it seems to me that I need a shower every day, and I'm just betting because you look pretty clean that you take one every day, and it gets rid of that residual smell. Well, that's what self-help does. It cleans up the interior, and you're inside out as a human being, spiritually, mentally, and physically, and financially, and it seems to me that he is trying to make money in my industry. Seems that way. He's got a book that I'll bet he'd like to be #1.
Well, Steve, what about that?
That'll never happen because I'm too realistic.
But Steve, some of the criticisms.
Try incompetent.
Steve, some of the criticisms that you're making of the industry could basically kind of be said to yourself. You've kind of come up with this overarching theory, and you're kind of trying to prove a point of it in your books. Isn't that the same thing that some of these self-help books do? No, because I'm not giving people advice. I'm simply saying I went into this book with a very simple premise. Can these people prove that this stuff works? When you're talking about, it's interesting, when I did the book it was an $8.6 billion industry. Now we're up to $10 billion. In a few years, if the projections hold true, we'll be at $12 billion. It keeps growing and growing. The people keep coming back. Mark, can you prove that it works?
I've also written wealth books, as you know, 1 Minute Millionaire and Cracking the Millionaire Code. We have a website he can go to, and I'll bet he hasn't been to it. Based on reading his book, he hadn't been to it. But Millionaire Hall of Fame, our students this year are up to $835 million, gave away 59,000 hours of community service, and $28 million to charity.
But you do see some of these things late night on television where, it's kind of, all you need to do is buy my tape and all the answers. And you kind of wonder, well, what's on the tape? Because if all the answers are on this tape, it must be really easy. But if it was that easy, everyone would be a multimillionaire.
Look, there's no credentialing for this stuff. Anybody can get in. You have somebody, you use Dr. Laura in your promo piece. Now, here is a woman, she rose to prominence on a platform of family values. This is a woman who didn't even know her own mother had died till 2 months later. I would think the first family value, or at least the second, is know when your mom is dead.
I just talked to her, and by the way, she says that you're giving her a bad rap, and she didn't know that, and she's been educated. She's got a PhD that's legitimate. She's a marriage and family counselor. She's been on 25 years. She daily has people that she has legitimately helped.
Why do you think it is that people come to you? What is it that they are really looking for? And why do they keep coming back to you?
Well, at the Chicken Soup level, what we do is we change the world one story at a time, and what happens is we cause instantaneous behavioral change. We had a prisoner who just wrote us, "Dear Mark and Jack, I've been in a slammer 5 years. Contemplating the ideal crime, killing the guy who put me here. My sister sent me your book. He's read it multiple times, so I agree with Steve because spaced repetition is necessary. That's why you go to school, and I believe in lifelong learning, which he obviously doesn't based on his book. But wait, Steve, hold on, I'm not done. And this guy says, when I get out of here, I no longer want to kill the guy who put me here.
Well, Steve, what's wrong with that?
Well, that's fine. That's one guy, though. It's anecdotal evidence. I mean, for every, let me tell you something. I am in a chicken soup book. And after my piece ran in Chicken Soup, I had people who tracked me down through my website asking me for further advice. I have no credentials to give that advice. They found something in the book that made me an instant guru in their eyes, which is the cult of celebrity we have. Just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean you know what you're talking about.
But, Steve, don't people go back to the Bible, routinely? By your argument, aren't you really saying, well, the Bible's not really helping because it's just kind of it's not solving people's problems, it's just kind of getting them through the day. But isn't that an okay thing?
That's not the nature of the bargain. This is a business. The Bible relates to religion. I've had this question asked to me. Faith is one thing. If I want to say I think that the Easter Bunny is going to cure my problems, and I believe in that as a private thing, that's one thing. But these people are extracting money to the tune of millions of dollars, billions of dollars annually.
I want to give Mark a final
Let me
thought.
answer that, please, Steve.
Sure.
America's great for two reasons, as far as I'm concerned, Anderson. Number one, we're the givingest individually and collectively. Number two, we're the only nation that has self-help books. They don't exist in 199 other countries. The first guy who ever did it is a guy who started the library system in America, Andrew Carnegie. Today, by today's standards, he's a Bill Gates. And he said, look, I've got a third-grade education. People lent me books, and there's no such thing as a library, so I want to give a handout, not a hand up. And our industry is giving more people a hand up. I mean, it's not anecdotal. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I have over a 250,000 people live in front of me. I've sold over 110 million books. My books are
110 million.
110 million. I am, according to Guinness Book of Records, along with Dr. Canfield, the world's best-selling author. Nonfiction, sir.
We got to leave it here. Mark Hansen, Steve Salerno, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you,
Our
Steve.
readers can read
Nice
all of
talking
your books and form their opinions. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Coming up next on 3